In this video, I'm going to show you how I made my beer dye table from start to finish. So first, we're going to go over some of the materials. Got some 2x4s, 4x4s, 4x8 piece of plywood, some hinges, and a couple other miscellaneous parts. When I bought all these parts, it was about $130 from Lowe's, an additional $12 for two different grits of sandpaper. So first I'm showing me framing the plywood on top of the 2x4s. I had to do that twice for each half of the table. This next step, I'm measuring the legs. I didn't have a power saw, so I had to hand saw this all myself. The initial cuts were done at Lowe's at the cutting station over there, and I gave them all the measurements I needed at the time, but some of the cuts were not quite what I needed them, so I needed to do that hand adjustment. So I would definitely recommend having a power saw if you're doing this kind of project. So now I'm attaching the legs to the table. I drill a big hole in the middle of the 4x4 to put in the bolt. And I use a bolt so I'm able to fold these legs. In order for the legs to actually fold, I need to be able to move the entire leg so that way the hinge point is somewhere not in the corner of the table, because otherwise it gets stuck. Now I'm installing the legs to the other table half, cleaning up as I go. And now I'm attaching the two halves of the table together with 6 door hinges. So here it is all folded up on the ground in its nice compact form factor. The table weighs probably around 150 pounds. It's very heavy, so you need to have a plan on how to move it. I used a dolly and it worked out pretty well. So here's the table all set up in the back. And there's the little puppy. Hi, Murphy. He's taking a look to see the new shade and the new wood that's on his lawn.
Are you marking your territory?
So you could see on this original one that it was bending in the middle. So I bought a couple more pieces of wood and made a support to put in the middle. It's detached from the rest of the table, but it's very light and portable. Now I'm going to show you how I painted the table. First, I put some drywall filler cement putty to fill in as many of the voids of the table as possible. You can see some gaps here being filled. Then I do a solid coat of primer on the table. I just did a single coat and I thought that worked out pretty well. I covered everything that I intended on painting with this primer. Then I take some painter's tape and create the outline of the Happy Dad logo that I'm trying to recreate. I did some extensive measuring with a tape measure and marking on pencil where I wanted to put the tape, and then I laid down the tape after that. So the first coat I painted was the dark blue, and then I filled in the red, and then I got the light blue filled in. I copied the theme of the hard iced teas. I thought that coloring scheme was better for a table that's going to be outside. So now I'm pulling back the tape, get to see the nice straight lines come together. And here's a time lapse of me pulling the rest of it. I'm just pulling the tape slowly and steady at this point. There were a couple spots where I needed to paint over the white that got exposed from the tape covering it. So now I'm at the part where I'm starting to stencil in the Happy Dad lettering. I'm using cardstock cut from a Cricut cutter. I found the font online and I printed those out. Here I am demonstrating how I filled in the voids. So I put in the full stencil with all the voids and then I take out the actual lettering so that way the void is in the correct spot. In my first attempt at doing this, I found that a lot of paint bled through because I left the stencil on the table with the paint on it. So I had to do a little bit of fine tuning by hand without any stencils, redoing some of the white and red layers. But in the end, it all got fixed, and this is how it came out. Overall, I'm really happy with how this turned out, and it's a really fun table to have. And finally, this is how the table looks folded up as I store in my yard.